Alright, hey guys, welcome to the stream slash recording. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I think that I took a dive into the deep end when I started with the Archer. I think I wanted to take a step back and start talking about the individual classes that exist. Now, because Tales of Maj'Eyal has such a large variety of classes, they have warriors, wilders, defilers, like all sorts of different ones. I was realizing that a lot of people who would find these videos to be valuable probably don't have a very good grasp of what is good and what is not good, or the high points or the low points of the class. And so I wanted to kind of make these videos to explain the highlights of different classes, different good points, different bad points about each of them. So I made a video, ended up being way too long. So here we are. I'm going to break it down into individual classes, starting with new game. Alright, perfect. So when I talk about a group of classes, the best word to use for it is metaclasses. So there are warrior metaclass. Warrior would be the metaclass, and a warrior within it, a warrior class within it, would just be a class. So the metaclasses are warrior, rogue, mage, wilder, celestial, defiler, afflicted, chronomancer, psionic, adventurer, demented, and tinker. There is a lot. You can even see up here there are 23 different classes, and there is actually a hidden one that is dwarf only, dwarf specific, called the Stone Warden. But we'll get there later. This video is going to just be about warriors, the warrior metaclass. Okay, so we're going to go down the line right here. As you can see, the main the classes underneath warrior are Berserker, Bulwark, Archer, Arcane Blade, and a personal favorite of mine, Brawler. So let's talk a little bit and start going down. So the Berserker is a very classic class. It's you have a big weapon and big strength, and you hit people for big damage. That's kind of what a Berserker does. In fact, the very name, a Berserker, means you're eschewing a lot of well, I wouldn't say defense, because Berserker has a lot of ways of staying alive, but it means that you are running forward to kill things as fast and as hard as you can. It's not a very tactical class, but we'll get into that. So, this is probably one of the most melee classes that you can play. There are a couple others that we'll get into later on, such as Wormic, which could definitely be just as melee as a Berserker. But the Berserker focuses on melee to such an extent that I would be hard-pressed to find another class, maybe Cursed, that just bumps at enemies. Bumps meaning move right on into them. So, when you are building a Berserker, I want to talk about a little bit about stat allocation. Number one, since it's a physical class, you're going to want to max out strength first, once you have enough for accuracy, but usually there's a general skill for that. After that, you want to go up in dexterity and cunning. Specifically, dexterity will add extra defenses to you. It will also, later on, help you get more critical hits. Cunning also does the same thing, and you're a Berserker. The point is to kill things as fast and as hard as you possibly can, and critical hits are only going to help you do that. So I'm going to divide classes up into 3 different categories: power, sustain, and tactical. And these are very, very broad. So for Berserker, for power, I'm going to say that it's about a 3.5, with 2.5 to 3 being about average. It is above average when it comes to power. You're going to go in there, you're going to hit things, and pretty much towards the end of the game, critical hit with almost every single solitary swing. It's going to be absolutely amazing. It does have other abilities that you can do, but for the most part, you're going to rage, get on in there, and just start killing. So after that, I want to talk a little bit about sustainability. All of these videos are going to be talking mostly about the normal difficulty. We can go insane and nightmare, but for normal difficulty where a lot of things go and there's a lot more flexibility, sustainability would probably be around a 2 to 4. Now, let me get into that. I would say 2 because it is a melee class, which means you can take a lot of damage, but that's okay. Berserker has it within its toolkit to deal with all of this damage. I would say a 4 because the Berserker literally has a I cannot die button. You press it, and he's just nigh unkillable. It's a skill, I believe it's called Unstoppable, and you don't die, and at the end of it, you are healed by the number of enemies that you kill while the skill is active. It's pretty darn great. I personally enjoyed it, and if you ever want to play roguelike in a very, not lazy, but a very, hey, I see that thing, I'm going to kill that thing way, then the Berserker is definitely for you. It has a very powerful skill set with a lot of passives that's only going to make the Berserker better as he goes along. And of course, the key thing with Berserker, you will get Berserker Rage, which, so long as there is an enemy in sight, you lose a little bit of HP each round, but you're going to make it up for it with all of the other Berserker abilities that come with it. How tactical is it? Probably would say about a 1.5. It's rather on the low end. He's a melee fighter. He says, I want to go there. I'm going to punch that guy in the face like twice. 3 times if I have flexible combat. I'm going to hit him as hard as I can. Cha-chunk. Hey, what should I do now? How about that guy? Cha-chunk. And he's just going to keep on hitting guys. Now, there is a 0.5 in there. I don't want to say that he is very low on the tactical scale. We're playing a roguelike. Tactics is part of it. All. But aside from that, not a lot of heavy thinking has to go into this, at least from my opinion. So, the Berserker is extremely straightforward, very easy to pick up. Definitely one that I would suggest to any new people, new beginners that want to try out the game and want to start to learn without having to get too in-depth into the mechanics. He has very few resource problems. He doesn't have to worry. You're not going to have to worry about your stamina going way down or suddenly being exhausted. You're not going to... I mean, this is a roguelike, so you are going to have to run and hide. And Tales of Maj'Eyal is one of my favorite games, specifically because of how tactical combat is. But it's nice, it's easy. Grab yourself a big weapon, hit a really big enemy for really big damage, and that's about it. The worst thing is that the enemies aren't right next to you all the time, unless you chose for them to be so. Next one we're going to jump down is Bulwark. So Bulwark is essentially what a lot of people think. I guess a good example might be Havel the Rock in Dark Souls. So Bulwark is, I have a shield, cha-chunk, and I have a weapon, and it's all the way over here. And we're not really going to talk about the size of the weapon, though you can equip it. It's mostly going to be shield and shield-based combat. So... a couple of different things about it. He is a melee character. He's supposed to be a very tanky character. On a power scale, I'm probably going to say it's about a 2. Now, you are going to be doing a lot of critical hits, and he does have a lot of interesting parts in his toolkit where he's focused on stuns and hitting people multiple times with his shield that he has that's iconic to the class. But I'm going to say it too. He's a little below average. Not to say that he's weak. Just a lot of what he does needs a little bit of setup, such as block. If you manage to block all of the damage, incoming damage from an enemy, then you will have a chance to counterattack the enemy for more damage. You will also be able. A lot of your skills will auto critical hit. As well as just stun. So there's some crowd control. Before I dive too deep into that, I want to talk about the stats of a Bulwark. It is a physical class, so again, I'm going to say max out strength first, because that increases your physical power, and that is going to cause you to do more damage. After that, I'm going to say dexterity, again, for the better defenses as well as critical hits and accuracy. After that, it really depends on what prodigy you're going to go for. And prodigies are something special that you get later on to the game, so I'm going to put them all the way over there, and we'll get to it in a future video. But your options are magic or constitution or cunning. You get to make your own choice. So to move forward, sustainability, he's around a 3, 3.5 to 4. He is a melee class, and he can take a lot of damage, and that's what you're going to have to think about. That means he's going to be, as far as tactical, I'd say he's probably around closer to around a 2, 2.5. That's very close to average. You're going to want to utilize bottlenecks. You're going to worry more about your gear instead of just, hey, I need to have big damage. It's what resistances exist on the shield so that I can block elemental attacks. I personally found the class to be a little one note. If I have to go down it, it has an incredible built-in stun resistance, and up until recently, if you were stunned on higher difficulties, you were dead. It's the same thing, it's synonymous. In fact, there would be movement runes that would give you the inability or immunity to stun effects, which is why they were so very important and powerful. Now, there have been changes made since then, so movement runes won't necessarily do that, but at the same time, the stun resist is something that is helpful and useful to all classes, so it's really nice to just have that built in. He's going to have high elemental resist due to his awesome shields. He's not going to take as much damage from an AoE fire attack, so long as your shield resists fire. That's not to say he's not going to take damage. You're still going to have to watch. It is a little slower than say Berserker, where you need to get there as fast as possible. You'll be hiding a little bit more. That's why he's more tactical than a Berserker, at least in my opinion. But the playstyle is very easy to pick up, to learn, and start going into it. If I were to give a couple of suggestions, I would say don't ever manually block. When you have a shield, you get the block talent or block skill. Don't ever really manually block. You have some skills that will set up the blocks for you, but manually blocking is another churn that something else is swinging at you, that something else is hitting you. You want to be more on the offensive. Maybe it's positioning. Perhaps it's turning on a regeneration infusion. It can be anything like that. Your talents are going to actively block for you, so what you need to do is focus on stunning and critting the other mobs right in the face as hard as you can. So the playstyle overall makes you feel kind of like a slow-moving tank. You measure your attack so you can hit the right place at the right time, and the right time is right now, and the right place is, again, your enemy's face. So it's a cool class. I highly suggest everybody do it, especially if you enjoyed being Havel the Rock. And yeah, that's about it. Very cool class. Moving on, we have the Archer, which if you watched any of the other videos, I'm talking about the Archer. I'm playing through the Archer. I plan on beating the game with every single class here and documenting it because that's what I like to do. And yeah, no matter how geeky and dorky that is. So let's talk about the Archer a bit. Let me just switch here. Perfect. So the Archer is the quintessential ranged class. And by Archer, we don't just mean, hey, you're going to do a lot of damage over there. We're talking the Archer's closer to like the green arrow with a bunch of different arrows in his toolkit. So before we get to that, let's talk about stats. You want dexterity. Max out dexterity first. You want to be highly accurate. You want to hurt things. You want critical hits. Dexterity is first. Things are going to be scaling off of that. After that, it is a physical class, so I would say some strength. And then after that, maybe magic or cunning. Magic only for a prodigy that you can get later. Again, those are special things that I'm talking about in a different video that away. So for power, the Archer it's very interesting. It's between a 2 and a 3.5 to 4 as far as power, and it for very specific circumstances. I like to talk about the archer and say that he aggressively presses the one button at enemies because for me the shoot talent is the one key, so I'm just pressing one, 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 one. But that really underlies the usefulness and the sheer toolkit that the archer actually has. I say that it's between a 2 because he can do a good bit of damage, ranged damage, and he can do. The damage range can be quite great. So maybe he's not hitting the same numbers as a Berserker when he crits. However, the Archer has a couple of class trees that will change that. He has a ability to be a sniper complete with concealment, where he will do extra damage so long as the opponent hasn't seen them yet. It's a very cool skill, very cool class. And you'll see pretty obscene numbers at that point. In fact, playing as a sniper and having concealment has completely redefined the class for me. I'm used to being a lot more aggressive with him, but we'll get to that. For sustainability, it's very active, so you don't want anybody right next to you. But the sustainability, I'd say, is probably around a 2, but to get into the tacticalness, it's at a 3. Slightly average, slightly above average. Maybe 3 to 3.5. What the archer has, like I mentioned before with the green arrow, is he has a toolkit with multiple different arrows. So, hey, look, there's a bunch of guys over there. Fragmentation arrow. It'll all blow up. They'll all be pushed away. Or, hey, look at that. There's a whole bunch of guys. Now they're all blinded, and that means that they're all marked. And if they're all marked, then I'm going to have a hail of arrows that's going to hit multiple times. Or perhaps it's just steady shot, and then you just fire for extra damage because you can, because it's on cooldown. Hey, that guy is marked. Now I'm going to headshot that guy. Hey, I'm going to pin that guy down to the ground. Really, an archer has in his toolkit a very active. His sustainability is made up because of how tactical he can be. You are going to be controlling the battlefield as best you can to make sure that that guy over there doesn't come up to you right here. So I personally think that it's a great class. I have enjoyed it. It does. I do press the one key aggressively at people. As of the making of this video, I am in the middle of an archer run. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Maybe you'll check it out. I'm also going to, in the future, make a video about the Archer where I take a deep dive into the class and all the class skills and talk about potential builds. So, to kind of go around, good AoE, good power, great enemy debuffs, and to just kind of cap it all off, he also has poison skills. So all of your arrows may end up poisoning an enemy, and because of the poison tree, if an enemy dies, it'll explode in poison and poison other enemies. And it can get pretty crazy pretty quickly in a way that I personally find wonderful. So the defense is active. If you go concealment sniper route, you'll have some amazing alpha attacks and even more ways to control what confrontations you're going to take on, what battles you're going to have, and when you want to have them. So what I'm doing with concealment and sniper is, hey, I see a hard target right there. I'm going to hit him as hard as I can, as fast as I can, and try to take that guy out, and then run away and disappear before the rest of the mob of enemies even catch up with me. So, cool class. If you want to feel like a powerhouse with a one gun, then I highly suggest that. I'm not going to touch into the sling archer. There is a tree where you can have a sling and a shield instead. I'm going to leave that until a later video where I talk about the skirmisher class. Alright, next up on our list we have the Arcane Blade. Yeah, let me just... Oh, alright, perfect. We'll just leave it right there. So, the Arcane Blade is kind of like a melee magic hybrid class. Extremely powerful, extremely powerful. It has one of the crowns of being able to complete the game on madness, which, here, I don't even believe I have that unlocked. But Madness is a difficulty level that is so extreme that in order to beat it, you have to cheat the system. We're talking about going through and not necessarily playing the game as intended. If you're an Archmage, perhaps you're punching yourself in the face to lower the cooldown of a spell so that you can stay alive. It involves basically trying to break the game over your knee, which is something that I personally love. However, the Arcane Blade does this through just massive damage. So let's talk about the stats. You want to have magic and cunning. Those are the two that I always max out first. After that, I'd say dexterity, and finally I put the rest of the points into constitution. Again, the reason for dexterity is for critical hits, defense, and accuracy. The reason for magic is because hey, the character is a spellblade. He scales off of magic. A lot of his abilities scale off of magic as well. Especially since every time that you hit an enemy, you have a chance of casting a spell. So, and that's honestly where all of his burstiness is going to be coming from. So, of course, if casting spells is part of your class, you're going to want to increase magic. And then later, there are prodigies that are only going to be making this even easier. From a power scale, I'd say he's somewhere between a 3 and a 5. The 5 is, again, bursting for numbers, for just incredibly high numbers, large numbers, taking people out in 1 to 2 turns. In some ways, the stars have to align. In other ways, you have to really set things up. But Arcane Blade, although I have trouble playing with it, it's just a class that doesn't necessarily work well with the way that I think. I'm a huge fan. A lot of other people on the forums will also talk about how powerful and how good it is. Again, any class that can beat Madness is... I don't really know what else to say it. I'll just paint a picture. So you're an Arcane Blade, and you know that there is a very hard target right around the corner. So you end up using your Earth spell to dig out the walls so that you can corner snipe people, which is to say, hit people from around the corner, or lure them into a zigzag pattern so that you can hit and then run. You end up luring the guys over there one at a time, and then using the Arcane Blade's overwhelming power to take them out like that. Now, it might sound tedious, but it's kind of gameplay style like that is required for Madness and higher, which is something that I personally do not play. So, power between 3 and 5. For sustainability, I'd say it's between 2 and 3. Again, you're a warrior, so you're going to want to watch out for a lot of magic spells. You can cast spells, so you do have ranged options there. I say between a 2 and a 3, so I guess 2.5. I'm not going to say that he is more or less sustainable than other people. Of course, a lot of your sustainability is going to come from gear, but I can't necessarily say that he is going to be nigh indestructible like some classes, Archmage, can be. But he does have access to different shields. He does have staying power, so maybe I'm being a little unfair and I should put him a little bit higher. So we'll say it's around a 3. For tacticalness, I definitely say that he is about a 3, which is, again, above average. You have to think about things, you have to set things up, and personally, where I always get lost is I have a hard time seeing how all the different skills are going to mesh together, but I know a lot of other people that pick it up like that. So, a couple of cool things. Incredibly powerful nerf. The late game is going to be much more interesting and much easier than the early game. I know when I played the Arcane Blade, I went full lightning, and I had thunderstorm, and I just walked around killing people just because I was too close. So I'd basically go around and be like a hi-fi bro, and be like, hey guys, how's it go? Oh, they died. Hey guys, how's it? Oh, no, I guess that's, well, this is awkward. Finally, it's a very cool character concept, and he has a diverse skill set. He does have ways of mitigating damage. He does have ways of doing insane amount of damage. cool class. If you ever wanted to be a Spellblade, if you ever wanted to just walk around and hit things really, really, really hard with your element of choice, I definitely suggest trying out the Arcane Blade. Let's see. And then we have the final one, the Brawler. Now, as I scroll down here, so you guys can just kind of look and read, Brawler has a very near and dear place in my heart. I've always liked unarmed fighters. I've always liked monks, and the Brawler is basically the monk of this game. So instead of the classic weapons, you are instead get weapon stats on your gloves and gauntlets. Now, the difference between these two weapons, gloves, they're weaker, but they hit faster. Gauntlets, they're slower, but they hit harder. So you can do something silly like pick up the Spell Hunt Remnants, which are gauntlets, and go to town just beating people down. Later on, there are prodigies that are obvious, like flexible combat that says every time you hit something, you may throw in an extra punch. Well, great thing, because one of Brawler's skills is double punch, so it's 1-2, and then you're going to punch them again. And there are ways to increase this. It's just really cool. So I may sound a bit like a fanboy here, but Brawler was the very first class that I ever cleared the game on. I personally enjoyed it. It made sense to me. I disagreed with some ways some people build it, or I just haven't had a very good experience with it, but we'll get to that. For right now, the stats that you want to max out, I personally max out Dexterity first, because I'm going down just a strike tree where I just hit people. I don't go so much with grappling. I didn't find that it to be very useful to me, but again, we'll get to that. Grappling is amazingly powerful all by itself. After Dexterity, you want Cunning for your skills. In fact, if I were to point to any weakness in the Brawler, it's going to be the fact that he is very skill-starved on both sides, both the class tree and the generic points. On the generic side, he has a skill that requires Cunning that boosts all of your physical stats. So you put it in Cunning, and guess what? Now you have a higher Strength and a higher Dexterity. I believe it's Mind over Body. I believe that's what it's called, but don't quote me. It's been a minute. So after you have Cunning, it is a physical class. Go up in Strength. And that's pretty much it. Strength, Cunning for skills, and then Strength. After that, put it wherever you want to put it. Maybe Constitution. Maybe you want to max out Cunning. There are a lot of different things that you can do. So let's talk about power. The Brawler, I would say, is between a 2.5 and a 4. So the Brawler, there very rarely is there going to be any one hit that does a lot of damage. The Brawler is going to focus on multiple hits. It's going to focus on setting things up. It's going to be focusing on grappling an enemy, which is to pull somebody into is to hold an enemy there, at which point there's an entire tree based around grappling where you can choke somebody out, where every time you're about to take damage, instead a lot of it is mitigated and transferred to the guy that you're grappling over here, so your effective HP ends up going up higher. The 4 comes in because the Brawler has a combo mechanic. So you're going to be doing a great bit of damage. You're going to be building up this combo, which you can then spend on, there's a bunch of different finishers. You can do an uppercut that might stun people. You can do an axe kick that will put certain, I believe it will drop sustains and put some of their skills on cooldown. And I believe one is called Flying Butterfly, where you're just like, hey, you know what? I want to be over there now. And then you're over there. I mean, you are a flying monk. So lots of decent damage, followed by big giant bursts. I am a man who likes hitting things multiple times in multiple ways. As far as sustain, I'm going to say it's probably about a 3. In this way, It's kind of on par with many other melee classes. He's not going to go around wearing a lot of heavy armor. At least that's not the way that I did it. So we're usually looking at light armor, which means defense, trying to dodge things. He has abilities that slow down projectiles that are coming to him and ways to gain extra turns because of that. He has ways of mitigating damage, as I mentioned before, with the grapple tree, where you end up having the other guy take it. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie to you, as a brawler, I spent a good bit of time also running away. To that, I was very fast, in lots of damage, and then I would leave. I don't want to become overwhelmed, although the brawler does have some crazy staying power, but the dice have to roll up. So I remember one time there I was able to take out 12 guys all at once, and there were decent guys over at the Prides, and I didn't have to worry about it. They just kept on missing. And I also remember another time when I was checking out the orc patrols, and, 2 guys took me out because they hit every single time. Now, I know these are very, very different circumstances, so I'm just going to leave that discussion off to the side, where we put all our discussion about prodigies, and there's a giant pile off screen. You guys can't see it, but it's pretty big now. So, let's talk about tacticalness. You are a brawler, and you want to punch things, and it's your job to go up to them and then brawl at them by punching things really hard in the face, like twice. So, just go in there, run. You do have ways of exiting combat. You have ways of engaging in combat, and that's even before we start talking about movement infusions or heroic infusions or anything like that. So as far as tactical, he is more tactical. He has a lot more movement and movement options. So in that way, I enjoyed him. Now let's talk about cool key features. You are a brawler. You run up and you hit things. The multiple attacks plus a diverse grapple system makes this class very flexible for all the different things that it can do. And it is well known to be a powerful class that is very good for getting first wins with. I thought it was just me. Apparently, this is just something that has a lot of ease of use and is a good way for people to just pick up and play, much like the Berserker. So I'm going to end this video by talking a little bit, by just kind of recapping this. The Berserker, he berserks. A lot of staying power, very powerful. You run up to a guy and chop them down. I would suggest it. Very good class for beginners. Lots of big damage, and you're a Berserker. Bulwark is big and tanky, but not as tanky as you would think. He focuses a little bit more on, I would say, tactical combat. I know I had to do it. I'm thinking about the luminescent horrors. I had quite a lot of trouble with them. Archer, your Hawkeye, your green arrow. You have a variety of different shots, and very rarely are you just firing arrows, especially in the late game. It's not going to be just your standard arrows. You're going to have answers for a lot of what people send your way. On top of that, it's cool. You can be a sniper with concealment, which means you get to pick your own battles. Arcane Blade, one of the most powerful classes, has a lot of really high damage. It's your spell sword. It has a lot of flexibility due to its spells, and you can literally walk around and basically sing about Mr. Bluebird on your shoulder while everybody around you is dying due to thunderstorm. And Brawler, in case you ever wanted to go over there and punch things in their face really, really hard until they didn't have a face that you could punch anymore, then find a new face. Highly suggest it. Great class. Alright guys, I'm going to end up ending this right here. Please let me know. Again, I'm Liat from How to Break That Game. I'm going to be creating new videos like this for all of the different meta classes. If you like this video, then like, subscribe, leave a comment. I answer all the different comments. I hope that this is going to be useful. I would have personally loved a video like this when I first started.